Loser? All right. I love the name tag in front of the TV. That is the nameplate. That's very good.
Right there.
I can see what she's doing. I can see what you're doing.
Carol, thank you for everything you do, as long as we have a minute here. You are awesome, lady.
Yeah, and that's smart too. For sure.
Kelly, can we confirm that they can hear?
Can you guys all hear us? Thumbs up?
Okay, good, awesome.
Thumbs up. Beautiful. Awesome. And then if you want to speak, just go ahead and unmute yourself when it's appropriate. All right. So the board met in closed session. Pardon? The board met in closed session and no decisions were made. And now we'll do flag salute. Sorry, my apologies. No, that's okay. Mr. Bruno, would you like to lead us?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
so much, sir. And you know what? You're right. It's all right. Now it's announcement of what action was taken in closed session. Sorry about that. Okay, I would like to move that we pull item number 10 from the consent agenda. And with that adjustment, would anyone please provide a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bruno? Okay, moving right along.
Just as a reminder to the board, if you guys would make sure you speak into your microphones, it might help a little bit with the room. I know we have the air flow on, so, and the door open, so thank you.
Okay, next is our organizational reports. Vanessa Mason, President, CUTA.
Good evening, board members. Thank you. I have to report that the teachers are all in their preparation modes to make sure that we are ready to return to campus next Monday. And for the return of students on March 25th and 26th.
Uh-oh. They froze. Come on, Mrs. Mason, if you can hear us.
What you do, Dale?
Okay. Don't touch.
But you lost her.
I'm good. This is gonna be a long night.
No, we'll be fine.
She's going home to Scott.
I just texted her and told her, hang on there.
Well, it's just more than our little
That's
Wi-Fi
okay, I'm just
again.
reading over her notes for the presentation, the slides.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
There you go.
We can hear you now. We can't see you though.
No?
And then there you go. I wasn't sure how much of my report you heard.
We none of it.
Start over.
Pretty much as soon as you started talking, we heard the
Okay, so
prepping.
teachers are all in preparation mode for returning to campus this coming Monday. And then looking forward to the return of students beginning Thursday and Friday at all of the elementary sites as well as the middle school. And then on April 6th for McClellan High School and Center High School, the teachers are in deep preparation mode, making sure we have lessons for online streaming as well as in-person instruction. And of course, the tech, as you all are becoming more and more aware, is not easy to manage. So that's my report. Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. I like the new hair.
Yeah, it's cute.
Thank you.
Okay, and now Marie Huggins from CFPA.
And I would like to take a moment. Marie could not join us today, so I'm welcoming Ms. Naisha Knott, who is the Vice President for CSEA. And so we'll turn it over to you. Did we lose Dr. Lee?
No, you
Probably
didn't.
turned her camera.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't see you.
Yeah, and just for bandwidth, since we're having such problems, I turned my video off so that when the person is speaking, they can be seen.
Yeah, that was the problem. The problem was I lost connectivity on the laptop.
Thank you, though. All right. Sorry, Naisha.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Naisha Harris Knott. I am the Vice President of Center Chapter 610. I have been a Center District employee and a CSEA member for 15 years. and currently I'm at North Country Elementary as an instructional specialist, PH Autism aide. I have been working virtually with a full roster of students at North Country. I have observed firsthand that many of our students have adapted to our new normal over the past year through distance learning. My morning schedule is that I have been working with the students doing response to intervention, RTI, which is an early identification and support for students with learning and behavior needs. Additionally, I have been working with the students on their intervention goals during their class assignments posted on their Google Classroom from their general education teachers in the afternoon. I am currently the vice president of our chapter. I am also a member of the negotiations team. Some of the activities that I have participated in include pre-retirement coordinator. I attended the CSEA annual conference and the officer training. In lieu of our annual member dinner last November, we recently provided our CSEA members with the choice of either a coffee break goodie bag or a PPE goodie bag. The coffee goodie bag consisted of Starbucks gift card and pastries. The PPE goodie bag included a contactless key fob, face mask, face shield, and wipes. I want to thank you for this opportunity to address the board.
I have a question. Which one of the goodie bags was more requested?
Well, I picked the Starbucks, of course.
I mean, you can get PPE anywhere, right? But free
Yes.
coffee.
You have to have coffee.
All right.
Thank you,
so
Naisha.
much, Naisha. All right,
You're welcome.
Moving along. Any questions for her from the board? Okay. Committee updates. Facilities. Mr. Craig Deason.
Good evening. We've got a few updates for you today. Moving to the kindergarten project first, they did complete pouring the foundation last week, which was, if you get on Google, you probably won't see it, but it's quite a massive foundation for the 3 buildings they're bringing in. The next couple of weeks, they're going to be working on a retaining wall that goes around the foundation, and then hopefully, if all goes well, on April 5th, they will bring the buildings, the modular buildings, and crane them on top of the foundation, and they'll all be in place before the kids get back. That doesn't mean they're done, but at least they're on the foundation. They'll start working on the inside. For our new school site, Rex Fortune School, on Friday we interviewed 6 leaseback contractors, and we have chosen one to bring to the board for approval next month. We're in the design development phase of the architectural drawings. Well, they actually just got completed, and from those design development drawings, they just completed the estimate of what it's going to cost for the school, but we haven't had a chance to let the architect look at it and kind of review it yet, so I don't have that actual number to share with you. And then we also have interviewed and chosen a modular contractor. So we have 2 different contractors on this job. The classrooms are modular construction, so they'll actually build them off-site and bring them and put them in place. And then we have the administration building and the multi-purpose room that'll be built, with sticks and with 2x4s and the whole bit from the ground up. The contractors that we interviewed, the leaseback contractors we interviewed, they will actually be doing all the groundwork, and so they'll be putting in the fields, putting in the hard court, doing all the underground for the utilities and all that stuff, as well as building the stick-built buildings. So next month, we're hoping to bring you the modular contractor and the leaseback contractor, and then what we'll do for the final construction documents of the project is we'll bring the architect, both of the contractors together, and they will review and work on those final documents together. That's one of the benefits of the leaseback contract, is we bring those 2 entities on board early, and what that does is, since they're all looking and participating in those final drawing documents before we go to DSA, it reduces the number of change orders through the project, because everyone's had a chance. There's no time for them now to say, well, I didn't see this before, or you didn't show me that or tell me I had to do it that way. So we're gonna be happy to get them all together and start pushing forward with our construction documents for the
Do you expect
elementary
to
school.
break ground?
Actually, the completion of the project will be August of '23, and it's a 15-month process, so about May of '22 probably,
So a year from,
May of 22?
a year from this May,
And then breaking ground would be,
a year from this May. Okay, and then the completion will be a year and 3 months after that.
So it's gonna go from May 22 to August 23.
correct.
Breaking ground on May 22,
Right.
a year from now, year and
okay.
a month ahead.
Yep, it's still a ways out, but we are pushing forward, and it's amazing what you have to do to get from this point to the construction documents into DSA, starting construction, through construction. You know, it is
I
a
was
long
just
process.
thinking of the ceremony we had for the junior high, and make sure Rex gets
There-
invited to
There will
the,
definitely be a party when that school is finished.
yeah.
And actually, we do a groundbreaking as well. You know, we would do something like that as well, you know,
And
ceremony.
have Rex there.
Is it just me again, or we lost him? Oh,
Huh?
No,
We got you, we hear you.
Yeah, you're okay.
Can you guys hear us?
We're here, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then for the CTE project, the Career Technical Ed project, the design development phase and the estimate on that one are also complete, so we'll be moving into the construction documents on that. And we do know that the estimate that came in on that is below the amount of money that we got for the grant, so we're within budget on that project. So we talked about it today, that we have contingencies in the project in case anything goes wrong. And then as we start the construction and find that we don't need those contingencies, we can push that money back into other things that we wish we could have done as along the way. So,
Technology, since it's a technology.
yeah, so that we're excited about that. We just released a RFP, which is a request for proposal for a CEQA consultant. And CEQA is the California Environmental Quality Act. And what we have to do is we have to make sure that by putting these buildings in, we're not disturbing any, there's 13 areas within the environment that we have to check and make sure that we're not disturbing. Whether it's noise pollution, light pollution, endangered species, waterways, all those different things the consultant will look at and make sure that we're not disturbing any of those.
Is one of those like tribal
Yeah.
routes?
Yes.
Are they planning like solar panels and stuff for that?
For the CTE, we actually aren't planning within the building of that project solar panels. No, but as you remember, we do get 50% of our power from solar panels within SMUD, but we'll look at other ways that we can meet some of those goals. The other thing that we just talked about on both of these projects is going all electrical on some of this stuff, because one of the things SMUD's working on doing is becoming grid neutral by 2030 in the next 8 years. And they're pushing everything electric, because then you can use solar power and you can use wind power and the Folsom Dam power to make sure that they're providing all the electrical needs without burning fossil fuels. So we are looking at going all electric to start reducing our carbon footprint.
You just mentioned our solar farm, well, you didn't mention the solar farm, but could you just briefly, for those of us who are new, that might want to know why we get half of our power from solar? Just
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, so about 4 years ago, we entered into an agreement with SMUD, and it's similar to a power purchase agreement. So if you hired Solar City to put solar panels on your roof, what Solar City would do is then they would sell you power produced by those solar panels at a cheaper rate than you would get it from your electrical provider. So we entered into, with the board's direction, an agreement with SMUD that we would purchase a certain amount of our energy from solar fields that they have to produce our energy. And with that, we were able to get a reduced rate on our electric bills. So 50% of our electric bill that comes from solar panels is at a lower rate, and then 50% that comes from the grid is at a higher rate, and
It's like
it
we're
actually-
renting solar panels.
it's just like putting solar panels up, but you don't have to. So, and the reason that SMUD went into that type of agreement with schools and other commercial entities was they were competing with the solar cities and the people that are putting their solar panels up on other people's roofs. So they were renting people's roofs for their solar panels.
I just wondered about the cost of, as they age, of redoing them.
Well, the nice part is they're not ours, so when
Yeah.
they age, they need to reproduce them and
That's
then
why I asked
One of
if
the
we were
benefits.
putting them in on this roof.
And then just two more things on CTE and then one bonus, okay? We're working on setting up a meeting with CDE, which is the California Department of Education, because not only does DSA, the Department of the State Architect, have to look at the drawings and make sure that they meet all the building standards, CDE looks at our drawings and makes sure that it meets all of the requirements for the grant. So we wrote a grant and we said, we're gonna do these things, and as far as educating our kids, and then they look at our drawings and they look at our plan to make sure that we're covering all of those things that they've given us money to build that project. So they're gonna do like a mock-up one before they actually go to CDD and make sure that they've done everything that they're supposed to be doing. And then the next steps on that, we'll finish the construction drawings. They'll go to DSA in July, and then we'll start construction in December, the very end of this year, December 2021, and it will be complete in August of 2021. So when kids come back to the 21-22 school year, those buildings will be open. And then the bonus was I received an email today that stated that our bond debt waiver that you approved for us to go after was approved today.
Good.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
On both all three, the kindergarten, Rex Fortune, and the CTE, could you tell us a little bit about the modulars that we're putting in and all their newfangled features, because I know they have them.
So basically a modular building can look any way that you want. You can have any kind of outside surface that you want. You can have any type of inside surface that you want. The big things that we're looking at within our modulars are, we want sloped roofs because that really reduces the amount of leakage that roofs have over the long term. And then the inside features, as far as the new school, they will all be the 21st century learning environment with multiple whiteboards and multiple TV screens. So they'll be very technologically loaded with really good stuff to deliver education to our kids.
What about airflow, VOCs?
Airflow, well, one of the things we're doing with the new school is instead of putting an air conditioner on every building, we're kind of doing like in your house. We'll put HVAC units at the end of every wing, and then we will vent in through conduit and things like that through the vents. We'll bring them in so that one of the reasons we're doing that is because it's easy for maintenance to come and work on them if they're all together. And then it's a lot quieter in the classroom because they're not hearing the air conditioner behind the vent that brings the air in. But as far as indoor air quality and things like that, everything gets better as things are new, and they incorporate those things into the drawings. VOCs, the gases that come up from carpet and wallboard and things like that, the rules are getting more and more stringent where they only allow certain amounts. So the materials that they're building are just making them safer in the long run for kids.
Okay, I've asked one for any other questions? Mr. Deason?
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Deason.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Comments from the audience regarding items not on the agenda. Mrs. Hunt, what do we have? Let me just read the statement here. Anyone may address the board regarding any item that is within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. However, the board may not discuss or take action on any item which is not on this agenda except as authorized by Government Code Section 54954.2. The speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. All public comments on items listed on this agenda will be heard at the time the board is discussing that item. So these are just items that are not on the agenda.
I have one from Bernadette Orr. It says, as we have been hearing on the news that teachers are getting an incentive for returning to school, can you touch base if this is happening at our school? And if so, why are we giving teachers money to come back but not the classified staff? I thought money was given to get schools back and open, and if we have been ready for months, why the incentive? And then from Rose Mendoza, classified and certificated all play an important role. I've heard that teachers are going to be getting an incentive. Is it really fair to tell all staff that you are required to come on campus and do your job, but we are going to give half of you an incentive? Can you please just clarify why teachers are getting an incentive? And, I have another one from Bernadette Ford. I just want to give a shout out to our admin at Center High School. Mr. Ferguson and Mrs. McNichols have been working nonstop getting our schools ready to open. A big shout out to the office for all your hard work getting supplies to students and being available for parents' questions. We are excited to get students back on campus. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunt. Okay, board and superintendent reports. Do we have any? I beg your pardon? I know, I think that probably some of those, but I mean, we're not allowed to discuss something that's not on the agenda, but we are allowed to make our board reports, and I believe that the superintendent's report is going to include some
I think
information.
Scott should say something about the reopening.
Okay, you want to go first and do your board report?
No, sure.
I mean, do your superintendent.
Are we to that point?
Yes, we
Okay.
are at that point.
Sure,
of the agenda.
I'd be happy to go first.
So I was worried about addressing the question because I knew we were going to.
Yeah, so just to address that a little bit, I wanted to echo the sentiments we heard in public comment. Our employees have been working very hard in person and those that have been working remotely. I think our staff across the district, from our classified folks to our confidential, to our administrators, to our teachers, to district administration, have all been going above and beyond. There has been some recent news of some districts providing incentives to teachers. I want to share that what we have done is we are providing stipends for our certificated staff that are going outside of their normal work hours to prepare for our transition. So not all teachers would be getting that, but those that would be eligible for the stipend would. Any classified folk who works beyond their regular scope of hours would also be eligible to put in a time card, get paid for that. Our goal is to not have individuals work beyond their normal days. It is a little bit different lately how we've been working, but if someone goes above and beyond or outside their day to accomplish tasks, we will absolutely time card pay them to do that. We do not want people working for free. So did that answer that for you?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the extra prep work that's required for transitioning, they're still doing their full job remotely, and now they're going to be prepping to transition to there, so that takes extra time.
Outside of the day.
And that extra time is being compensated through a stipend,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Then also to continue with my board report. if that's
Please.
okay. So I just wanted to remind the board that we do have April 7th at 6 o'clock we've established for our Brown Act workshop. Scott Holbrook from Atkinson, Hamilton, Loyola Rood will be present with us to go through Brown Act and answer any questions that you all may have. Also, I know the board has been excited since probably last month at least. We talked about getting with CSBA, California School Boards Association, to look at some governance training, some workshops that might address team building and different things. I'm happy to report I have spoken with the consultant, and I think I've shared individually with you guys the opportunities that will be there. And for under future planning or advanced planning, I'd like to see if we can come to a collective agreement on some ideas of scheduling, and then I'll merge back with the consultant and bring that back to you. So I'm excited to have that happen. Also, I just want to give a shout out to all of those that participated and helped with our CSP last week. As the board has been informed, we did receive approval from Sac County Public Health. Also, as a part of that, they have a new thing where they're actually having task force people that you could schedule to come out and they would come out and visit your school sites just to see if there's any other suggestions before students come back. We scheduled 4 of those. They wanted to primarily focus on elementary. Today, we had a representative from County Public Health come out and look at North Country and Dudley Elementary. And I was able to join the second visit at Dudley, and the consultant was very excited to see. She had some suggestions. It was great. What we all determined was it's nice to have someone from outside look at what we think, because sometimes you don't see, when you read a paragraph and you miss errors that you just can't see. She had some very minor suggestions, things to help us be even better. So we really welcome that. And I want to compliment all the sites, but Dudley and North Country for being our first round with this. It was very stressful for all of them because they want to do it right and they want to make it as safe as possible for all. So I want to just give a big kudos to them for doing that. Next week, Spinelli and Oak Hill, and then we will proceed from there. Another update for the board, just to kind of share with you. There has been news recently regarding the state testing. Today and yesterday, the state board, yesterday the state board authorized the ability for our federal government to do a state waiver for flexibility on CASP testing. So the state of California will be applying for that waiver. If that is the case, we could either use local measures and still report them out through the dashboard metrics, or we could go with CASP. We will look to very closely, because the CASP testing takes a couple weeks to get through. So one of the things we're internally looking through is what's the best use of our time, since we haven't had students right in front of us. And so is it worth 2 weeks of testing? So we're going to analyze that if this waiver is approved. We'll come back to you guys with much more information on what our plan would be. But it is very clear that you would have to disaggregate, report the data in the same method. It has to be standards aligned. So just want to throw that out, that's something that's out there. And then finally, as it comes to the reopening, I just want to thank, there's definitely, as we heard from Mrs. Poor's comments here, there is a lot of buzz and excitement around coming back. There's some apprehension around coming back, but we're really excited. Staff is kicking it into double overtime, really working hard to make it as overly prepared as we can. And just to let you guys know, district-wide, we're about 60% of our students are selecting to return in person. Our elementaries are running around a high 60% to return to hybrid. Middle school's around 54%. Center High School's about 60%. McClellan's around 38% as of right now. So that may change. I'll keep updating you. We have to update a state website every 2 weeks. So I'm happy to share those numbers as we see things develop. But it does show to me that folks are interested in getting back, and I know there's definitely some excitement and some nervousness around it, but it'll be good. I've had the opportunity to visit some of the cohorts. Just looking in, it's great to see the kids on campus. So anyway, that is my report for tonight.
What's the open dates for the junior high and high school?
Our junior high, March 25th and 26th is when 7th and 8th grade will start, and then high school, everyone will be back on April 6th, Tuesday.
So when you say everyone, though, that's still on an ABC?
A hybrid schedule, since we're in the red tier,
So
then we can't, those dates are all cleared. And we have sent out word to families that we've reached the red tier, that those dates that were established at our last meeting are official. So people can start
You
planning.
would be getting my notes too. You can tell.
That's awesome.
All right, Mr. Bruno, would you like to give your report?
Sure. First of all, I wanted to point out that we are in the red tier now, which is good news. A lot of people are excited about coming back. But one thing that I noticed didn't get a lot of mention is they actually changed the definition of the red tier. They moved the target percentage from 7.0 to 8.0, which is how we qualified. So I would like to just remind the entire public, please still be cautious. Wear masks, social distance, wash hands, all that fun stuff. Because although we're in a better tier, we're still not down to the 7.0 we were hoping to get down to. And the other thing is, I've heard some feedback about some employees not feeling appreciated. And as an employee of a different school district myself, I can relate to that. Looking around this room, I see a lot of familiar faces that come and report to the board regularly. But I also acknowledge that there are people that are working, doing other behind the scenes work that maybe aren't interacting with us, but, you know, Mr. Deason's report, I'm sure there were other people involved all along. And just because we're not seeing you here, I don't want people to think they're not appreciated. All the work that's being done to set up the schools, all of the interfacing with the public, you know, I'm also a parent and I've had to go in to Center High and have a meeting and everything. The administration there has been wonderful. The people that greeted me were enthusiastic and friendly. You know, the custodians that are keeping our schools clean, food service workers, everybody plays an important part. And even if we don't see it firsthand, I appreciate the way this district works. Everyone's working together really well for the good of our students, and I just want to thank everybody. So, thank you all.
Oh, yes, so, thank you, Mr. Bruno, I reiterate everything that you say, so thank you, everybody. We all know how hard you're working, and it's much, much appreciated. I would like to congratulate Mr. Lair and Cabinet for their diligent work on CSP. Congratulations on your success on that, and thank you, administrators and support staff.
And the
To make that-
CSP is the COVID safety plan. Sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Kelly, much appreciated.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I appreciate that. Yes, that is what it is. And thank you for your hard work. That is a great success for us. I would like to thank the Antelope Lions Club. They sponsored the North Country Elementary Individual Reading Challenge. The Lions Club donated, if I believe I'm correct, 12 Kindle Fires. So that would be 2 Kindle Fires per grade level. And what happens is the individual challenge is, you know, individuals read, and then whoever wins, it's in a drawing, they'll pull out of the hat, and they will get a Kindle Fire. So it's 2 Kindle Fires per grade level. McCullen High School and Center High School are busy with credit recovery and credit loss. Center High School has also incorporated Ingenuity, that is an online and blended learning solutions for their students. So that's a great success for them. One thing I did continue seeing is schools mentioning their successes in multi-tier systems of support. They are focusing on all students' academic, behavior, and social needs. It's important that we continue our work on MTSS as a whole to keep our district in line with our local control accountability plan. So that's huge. Then some important dates to remember. The deadline to submit your application for the Center Boosters Scholarship has been extended to April 18th at midnight. So check their website, Center Boosters, and also you can call the school office for additional information. And then the elective forms for the 21-22 school year for Riles Middle School is due March 19th. Happy spring, everybody, and have a great spring break.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. And I'll go ahead and go next. So just want to welcome our new employee, Tanner Wise, and congratulate our 3 employees who were promoted, Lorenzo Garcia, Mary Neal, and some third guy, I'm not sure.
No, never know.
Eugene Graham, congratulations.
Congratulations,
And
Eugene.
then congratulations and a big, huge thank you to Lisa Morton, who is retiring this year. And then I'm going to come back to this section about, that I'm going to ask Mike to talk about. Mike's not here. Is he?
Yes,
Oh, right there, sorry. I'm sorry, Mike. Looked right at you. I just wanted to have you talk about the mental health supports that we have in place to support our students who are distance learning, the extra stuff that we're doing, and just kind of give an idea of who should be seeking that out and kind of remove the stigma around the mental health category, that it's really just a way for people to socialize and kind of get out of their isolation. and whatever else we're offering. So if you had a few minutes to talk about that, but let me finish the rest of my report first. If you wouldn't
And we might want to agenda, I mean, if that's something we want to come back, since
I just wanted him to
Okay.
say what, just a brief overview of the services that are available.
I don't want him to feel unprepared, is my only
No,
thought.
no.
Okay.
As
As long as he's good on it.
A real quick overview. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Let's see. I can't read my own handwriting, so give me just one moment here. Oh, I just wanted to say that, yes, as Mr. Bruno had mentioned, we have moved into the red tier, and they did change the criteria. And one of the driving factors that allowed us to move into the red tier was the fact that California has now administered more than 2 billion doses of vaccine to what we call disproportionate or overly burdened populations. And that was one of the criteria that the governor put in place with his most recent revisions to the blueprint for the safer economy. And the reason for that, of course, is, I like to think of it this way: you get more bang for your buck. If you go to the communities that are hit the hardest, take care of them first. It helps everybody, and it's not only helping them because they deserve it and need it, but it's helping everyone by addressing the greatest need in the society. So I'm super excited about the fact that we did that, we met that goal, and of course we're exceeding that at this point, and that's what helped us drive down into the red tier. And then in addition to that, because we are now in the red tier, I just wanted to note that on the February 17th meeting, the board voted unanimously to open all schools in the red tier. So we are all now on the same page and should be in alignment for a really
In my
smooth opening.
pardon, it wasn't a unanimous vote. I just want to point that out as a point of order.
The meeting notes do state that, so if that's not correct, that was for the February 17th meeting, not the March 3rd meeting. So when we voted to open 2 weeks after moving into red tier,
That's correct.
that was moved by Mrs. Anderson and seconded
Pardon,
by
I
Dr. Lee.
misunderstood.
That's
I
okay.
misunderstood.
No, that's okay.
We're talking about February.
Yeah, no, we were talking about February, not March. And I just wanted to say that, that's great, because now that we're in the red tier, I think we can all be excited about the fact that we're moving forward on reopening. And then, let's see, wanted to thank Heartland Child and Family Services, who's going to be providing grief counseling as needed. And it is an item that is on our consent agenda tonight. And then I recently attended my first, what's called MEG training, which is Masters in Governance training. So my first classes were last Friday and Saturday. And a lot of what we talked about in those meetings is the things that we're going to be covering in our CSBA first training, things like team building, communications, norms, protocols, a handbook, all of the things that we need to make sure that we're working together as a great team. And a lot of us are new, so I think it's real timely that we're taking care of that, and I was excited and happy to hear the training that went on because of that. One of the things that they pointed out to us is that with a board of 5 people and 1 superintendent, there are 15 one-to-one relationships. So I have a relationship with Scott, a relationship with Nancy, with Mr. Bruno, etc. And around the room there are 15 different relationships. And they really encouraged us to build those individual relationships. We can meet with people, outside, we can talk to people on the phone, we can go to events. Oftentimes I've gone with Mrs. Pope or Mrs. Anderson to one of the plays, which obviously you can't go in the theater and sit in a play, but just, build those relationships one-to-one, because that's going to make us a much stronger team as a whole. And then one of the things that I had been talking about with Mr. Lear was having someone from the board participate in the social emotional learning committee and having some representation on that. We can have up to 2 board members attend that committee. And so just put some thought into that. I don't know if we need to agendize it, but I'm definitely interested in having some representation there so that we can all
Which committee?
benefit from that. The social emotional learning committee. Scott, remind me, why was it I wanted to do this? There was a specific,
Well, one of the things we talk about in that is looking at data and then
equity.
identifying, so I think it would be good, and we can do that under advanced planning. I think at that point, it would be nice if a couple of you would like to be a part of that, we'd love to include. That then subgroup could then put information, look at data, and then bring some ideas back to the whole board, so we can make sure it gets pushed through
pushed through, right?
and really get some traction
Yeah, so-
on the very important work.
One of their next items that they were already planning to address was the question of disproportionate outcomes for our various impacted populations. So really excited to get started on that and get that ball rolling.
When do you hear on the CSBA position?
Oh, I haven't heard anything, but I'm assuming that, I mean, I guess I shouldn't assume, there were only 4 candidates. Have you heard?
The deadline was just this week.
Oh, what do you mean the deadline?
It was,
So
we're
more people-
submitting the ballots, the votes
Oh,
was
okay.
Monday, so they would still have to tally.
They
and
still
then
have to tally the votes, but there were 5 vacancies and only 4 applicants, so
Oh, okay.
I think I'm on it.
But doesn't
Right,
that
like it or
depend
not.
on area though?
Pardon?
Doesn't that depend on areas?
I mean, it was in our packet of what we voted on, there were 5 openings and we could vote for 4. So I think that is our region, our area.
I just caught, it seems like we're drifting a little more into just
Yeah.
a conversation. I think it's important to stick with the board report and then.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Apologies.
No,
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. And that's it. And Mrs. Anderson, you're next.
Okay, I would like to hear a little more on what our
Sandra?
Children's Day
Can you
is
put your
gonna be
light on?
like.
Can you put your light off on your phone or on your pen? It's glaring in my eyes.
Your pen, the light on your pen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, I would like to hear, if it's possible, a little bit more about what the elementary child's day is going to be like, what they're going to be allowed to do, as in recess or classroom activities.
sure, and we have everything outlined. I know Mr. Jordan went over a lot of that last time, but we're happy. I can either meet individually with you or we could come back with something. I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll meet in your office or something.
Okay.
And other than that, I just want to say I could not be prouder of Center School District and the way that they have pulled through this, pulled together, have accomplished what they needed to accomplish, and made sure that we were ready to go when the time came for these kids to go back to school. And I am so thrilled that we are able to put these kids back in school, because these kids are suffering. They really, truly are. A lot of them that just can't hang in there being, by themselves, or they aren't self-starters, and they're just not getting it. So some are able to do it on their own, but there's a lot of them that are suffering because they don't have that companionship or those relationships out there, and they need to be back in school. So I'm absolutely thrilled with the leadership that Mr. Lair has provided and the follow-through that our sites and our administrators have had, the response from our classified, our teachers, everybody in the middle. The whole entire district has done a fantastic job, and I couldn't be prouder. So thank you to each and every one of them. And that's my board report.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. Dr. Lee, if you could give me just one more minute, I neglected to ask Mr. Jordan to come up and just kind of give an overview of some of the social emotional supports that are available. Just really brief.
My knees are popping.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put you on the spot like that. I should have warned you of that.
And this, I just broke down a few notes after you made the request. So this is just kind of an overview of what's happening right now. So we had our social emotional task force, district-wide task force, come together about a week and a half or 2 ago. One of the things that came out of that, we're putting together a mobile mental health task force. So when we come back on the first couple of days, we have people ready in case something happens, whether it's kids are experiencing anxiety about coming back to school, or want to talk through some of the things that have happened, depression, those kind of things. So that group will be able to go to site and help out, so no single site gets overwhelmed. We also are going to repost for our counselor position. We're going to try for a school psychologist this time. to help out on our educationally related mental health services team. Ann Lyons has done a fantastic job, as well as Bonnie Nolte and Rochelle Haywood, meeting with our students, counseling throughout this entire pandemic, meeting with them online, virtually. We recognize that the services we need to increase, so we're bringing in some more people to do that. We have continued with Beacon, which is, I think I discussed this a little bit in the SEL report, times blended together, what is last month before, whenever. So that is continuing to go on, and that is to support our students who are online, who are looking at suicidal ideation or self-harm, and we have had a few hits on that, and we've been able to intervene successfully on that, which is fantastic. Not fantastic that it happened, but fantastic we were able to intervene. We are also almost done. We started meeting up 6 months ago or so to put together a grief team, and that grief team will allow us when an unfortunate or horrible incidents like what happened with our 2 students at McClellan at the beginning of the year with the accident, where we can mobilize and get people, students and staff, the mental health that they need. And that's partially where that Heartland Alliance comes in. They've agreed to help us out with up to 30 professionals. If we get overwhelmed with the need, that they would help us out free of charge for the first 100 hours to come in and support our students as well. So we're looking at supporting kids in every way we can.
Thank you. I really
Is
appreciate
that
With the whole
what you're looking
impromptu
for?
thing, yeah, thank you. Very good.
Thank you.
All right, and now, we are all really looking forward to Dr. Lee's presentation during her board report, so we could go ahead and start the slideshow.
There's no slideshow, but I just want to say greetings everybody and thank you. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to get a chance to do my report. Usually we use alphabetical order for our report, so I was kind of thrown today by the different ordering, but
I mean, it just
reflects
kind
the
of,
times.
it changes, and the only reason I went with Mr. Lear first, usually he goes last, is because it was a perfect segue from the public comment, so then I just, there is no rhyme nor reason, it was just the way it worked out. Sorry.
Right, yeah. So greetings everybody and happy Women's History Month. You know, it was recently brought to my attention by multiple constituents that for the past 30 years or so, this board has not once recognized Black History Month in February or Women's History Month in March. And while these are things that we should focus on all year, the fact of the matter is that these months were developed as a way to highlight folks that have been historically marginalized and continue to be marginalized in the larger dialogues. So when I ran for this position, I really promised to focus on diversity, inclusion, academic data, and culturally responsive teaching. However, you know, for those of you who are reaching out to me, it's to really change things in the district, it's going to take more than just one new board member's interests or passions. It really needs to be a collective effort. And I want to remind folks that we are a team and we are a board, not just individuals acting. Turning my attention back to the more immediate, I hear your concerns that you shared with me since our March 3rd special meeting. I am listening. I'm bringing those back to my colleagues. I did request that the district provide the board and the public with a detailed accounting about the CARES Act and coronavirus funds that have been spent and allocated, including highlighting how the funds were spent or allocated on our most vulnerable student populations. I've also requested some data about the percentages of the certificated and classified staff that want to be vaccinated and have received it. I did see that as well. Vaccination rate information has been released by Dry Creek and other small and large districts. And there was even a KCRA report or something about it, about local districts and vaccination rates. So I'd like to know that about our district too. I also agree with folks that have reached out to me and expressed that the students in our district deserve to have clean, safe air in their classrooms. And furthermore, if that means we need to upgrade our HVAC and ventilation systems so that they can handle the types of filters that are needed to trap viral particles, then that's what we need to do with some of this extra funding that we're receiving. It's challenging for students to learn in spaces where the basic human right to breathe is not adequately protected while a global pandemic marches onward. So I want to assure the public and those of you who are bringing these concerns to me, everyone is working hard, everyone's working overtime, and we're also working on more transparency. So we should all expect to hear more about these things soon. In the meeting packet for this week, you'll find what appears to be a photocopied version of my report to the board about the listening session that I held in February that was seeking to inquire about the state of social, emotional, and culturally competent teaching in the district. If you are someone who wants to click the hyperlinks that are there or interact with that interactive document, just email me. I'm happy to send it to you so you can see more about what actually took place during that meeting, what we discussed. Some of the poll results are linked into that you can't access with the way that it was distributed through the PDF file that was attached to our agenda packet. My interest in this topic and my interest in data-informed decision-making comes from my lifelong service as an educator. The data is one thing that can point us to areas that need more support and to areas of needed improvement. And as a board, we have a duty not only to ensure fiscal soundness, but to ensure physical and instructional soundness of this district. We have a lot of opportunity now to change what we do instead of trying to get back to what we once knew and what worked best for a long time for some of us, but not for all of us. The data around instruction in this district tells us that we have work to do when it comes to instructional equity and supporting achievement for all students. For all students, including English language learners, for all students, including our homeless students, for all students, including students with disabilities, for all students, including our African American students. When we really start this process of looking critically at what all means and what the data tells us about our progress towards all means all, we'll start to see our budgets, our efforts, our expenditures, all of those things reflect a visible and verifiable commitment to increasing equity. I just have a quick one here. Did you know that social emotional learning that's implemented in a culturally unresponsive manner can actually do more harm to students than good? It's really true, and that's why we need to take a closer look at how we're implementing social emotional learning and to ensure that we're doing so in a culturally responsive manner. So I want to thank everybody that attended and shared information with me so I could learn more about the culturally competent social emotional learning in our district. The work that people are doing in our district is phenomenal and so appreciated. And we need to see those efforts system-wide instead of just in small pockets of activity or single classrooms. At the listening session in February, I learned that our district has had a variety of social emotional programs in operation since the early 2000s. I was surprised to learn that. I learned that right now we have several social emotional programs operating in various capacities at various sites, and that we have school sites with low numbers of support staff that are critically needed to serve students and families as they return to in-person instruction this semester and beyond. So I'm really glad that we're receiving some assistance to boost up our support staff in terms of counselors, and that we're looking at ways to bring in additional supports for students. Not only are we going to need to navigate the devastating social and emotional effects of this pandemic and a year in quarantine, we're also going to need to navigate the very tough, ongoing racial violence that is rampant in our nation, including things like the horrific attacks against Asian Americans yesterday in Atlanta, and ongoing events that rise into our consciousness and awareness daily. In these situations, it's not enough to keep doing what we're doing or to pretend that we're teaching and learning in a bubble. We cannot just return to how we were. How we were is no longer. We need to return stronger and better informed by the lessons that we've learned in this past year. As a district, we also need to have an overarching framework that brings all these various social emotional programs we have running at our school sites to really focus in to this work through a lens of cultural competence. Our students deserve nothing less. So again, thank you all who have contributed to furthering the dialogue and who are doing the work every day. I appreciate every student, every staff member, every teacher. I'm thankful that our COVID safety plan was approved after we made a decision to set a reopening date without having that approval in hand. We just entered red tier yesterday, and the health equity measures remain at unacceptable levels. the data tells us that this global pandemic is not over. It will weigh heavily on me as an individual board member should any member of this learning community face exposure to this deadly virus because of hastily made decisions. Let's hope all fares well, and given the conditions, and that every member of our community is protected as much as possible from needless exposure to a deadly virus. I continue to express my opposition to our reopening plan as articulated because it does not phase in a return to school for students. Instead, we're returning students to 5 days of in-person instruction en masse. I continue to question whether our facilities, safety plans, and instructional supports are ready to handle that. I'm also looking forward to our COVID dashboard being posted and updated so that we can have access to simple information about the safety of students and staff in our district, and for vaccination information about our certificated and classified staff be made public in the same ways that it is for other large and small districts in our area. As always, wrapping up here, should you wish to connect with me, I am available steadily first Mondays for drop-in office hours from 4 to 5 p.m. Every first Monday, I'm there, the room is open, the link's on our board website, it's on my site. Feel free to drop in or contact me. I'm here to serve and make our district fiscally, physically, and instructionally great. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Dr. Lee, do you know who Rex Fortune is?
You know, Nancy, performative actions like naming a school after an individual or person of color do not demonstrate a commitment to equity that's seen at the instructional level. But yes, I do know who Rex Fortune is.
That wasn't my point. My point was that, yes, we have had celebrated Black History Month, and we've done a lot of things as far as promoting hiring African Americans as teachers and education-wise. And I just somehow get the impression that you don't think that we have. I don't understand why you've gotten that impression, but I'd love to talk to you someday about it, and maybe...
You know, we need to look into the data, Nancy. That's as simple as that. The CAS scores are very clear. Our graduation rates are clear too. So that's what I look at when I'm making statements. And I'd be happy to talk with you offline about, you know, what I've seen in the data and what's available publicly in our data. And the fact that we're doing things, but we need to do more. And now is not the time to rest on our laurels or pat ourselves on the back. We have a lot of work to do to support our students of color, our students with disabilities, our homeless students, you know, our English language learners, so many groups of students. And by supporting them, we'll be supporting all students, and that's what's so critical. And it's something that I hope that we can turn our focus to even greater. So that's something that I'm looking forward to doing together as a board.
And Dr. Lee, I think, I don't know, I can speak for at least 3, 4 of us that are sitting up here. We all agree that more needs to be done. We all realize that. It's something that I spoke about at my very first meeting when I came back. It's something that we're excited you're here to rally for it as well. And nobody's disagreeing with you at all that this is definitely an area of focus that we need to work on. And so we're just excited to get to work doing it.
I'm confused is all.
Yeah, we're not resting on our laurels. So I mean, I think it's when there's comments like that that it gets.
That's okay, let's keep on with the meeting.
Yeah, let's keep on. It gets frustrating. Okay, moving right along.
It does, you know, if we could just not interrupt each other and, you know, let folks give their report without feeling the need to interrogate parts of it. If you notice, I didn't do that for anyone. So if we could just maintain that, that would just be peachy. That would be peachy.
Yeah, you had said your report was done, so we apologize if we interrupted. Okay, moving right along. Consent agenda. So there's been a motion to pull item number 10 from the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda items as a whole?
I will,
Mrs. Hope, thank you. And a second? Mr. Bruno, thank you so much. Do we have general consent to approve the consent agenda?
Maybe we could do a roll call since we.
Yes, I
Yeah,
would.
probably roll call would be better. So Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
Mrs. Pope, Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. And then item 10 was pulled, not for any negative reason, but I was hoping that we could have Mrs. Coronado come up and just give us a general idea of what the consolidated application is for and what we're looking at when we look at that item.
Sure. And I will have to say I did the financial part of the Con App, and so Mrs. Shabali is the one who completes the Con App and turns it in. So for the financial part, we break down the federal programs. So we break down the Title I program, the EL funds that come in, and some professional development funds from the federal government. And for the Title I, I have to allocate funds to the different Title I schools. Before we do that, we take 10% of it off the top as required to go towards family engagement. And then we also give a minimum of $50,000 to the Family Resource Center so that they can use that for our homeless students. And some funds go to administrative costs, for instance, salaries for the people who do the Con App. What is left is disseminated or dispersed to the different school sites based on a pure pupil allocation. So I think it was $645 per eligible student at each school site was allocated. And then the school sites create school plans with their school site councils to determine how to spend that money.
So the Con App is really just an accounting of what is, it's just a way to account for all of our federal dollars.
Correct.
So there's two components. You have the application phase. It truly is. Back in the day, we had state and federal, also categorical, state categoricals. There used to be about 20 different pots of state categoricals. During Jerry Brown's tenure, he removed a lot of the categoricals to create the LCFF formula. And so this used to be more about state documents. You apply for those at one point in the year. 6 months later, you report out. So this, what we're seeing tonight, is the reporting out of those funds. It used to be much, much more extensive because you had, I think there's 40 different categoricals that were in place. Each of the federal ones do have some rules. The transferability, Title II, you can transfer serve. We don't do a lot of inter-transferring with them. We use Title II to do professional development. We use them for the purpose that they're getting.
And we're not transferring.
Yeah.
If we were going to transfer it, that's where this would be.
Correct. Correct.
Great, thank you so much. Do we have a motion to approve item number 10?
I'll
Mr.
second.
Bruno and Mrs. Anderson seconded. Thank you. Roll call vote. Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
Mrs. Pope. Sorry. Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you so much. The consent agenda is passed. All right, business item A. Second interim report. I'm sorry, I should have just let you just stand there. Mrs. Coronado, thank you.
Sure. So the PowerPoint presentation is in the back of the packet for anybody who can see the screen. And in the packet, it says first interim budget report, but after winter press, I corrected that to second interim report.
What page?
It's on the screen.
179. If you go to 179, it's right. It starts right there.
So this is just a reminder of our district enrollment. I did share this at first interim. And we did see a decline when we moved into the distance learning format. And we are hoping that the students return now that we're going back into hybrid, or at least next year when we go back to full learning. Hoping we go back to full learning. So because enrollment is down in many schools, and because it's hard to take attendance, the state let us go ahead and claim last year's ADA as this year's ADA. And they're also letting us claim next year's ADA, last year's ADA for next year. So for 3 years, we will have an ADA of 4,115.34 students. That allows us to budget And because, as I just showed, our enrollment is declining, this benefits us greatly because we get to claim ADA for the higher enrollment that we had last year. If you look at 2022 and through 2023, the funded ADA dropped significantly because we can no longer claim the last year, 1920. The hope is that by the time we get to that year, the students will return and the ADA will go up. But I chose a conservative figure for ADA and based it on the kids that we have now and what, if nobody returned, what our funding would be. Looking at the unrestricted revenue from first interim versus second interim, and first interim went through October 31st and was reported in December. Our revenue this year really didn't change any, but the next 2 years it goes up significantly, and that's because in the governor's budget proposal, he added a cost of living increase, and that equated to about $2 million for each year for us. I'm actually quite cold, so my teeth are chattering, sorry for that. Anyone who's been in my office knows that it's a sauna in there. When we look at unrestricted expenditures, those don't change much from first interim. There are some changes just due to being able to reduce some budgets and from staff changes as well. Thanks, Ari. When we compare the unrestricted revenue versus the expenditures and contributions, we'll see in this year, we will have about $1 million more coming in than going out. A lot of that is because we are using COVID funds to pay for some things that we would normally use general fund for. And next year, in 21-22, we will have a surplus of $2.5 million. This is greater than what I reported in first interim. In first interim, I said we would have about $300,000. But this increase is due to the COLA that we're getting. And then in the third year out, in 22-23, we have about $1.3 million surplus. Previously, first interim, I showed that we would have about a $775,000 deficit spending. So the COLA really helped us, and that is including the lower ADA. So if we get more students, we will see even a bigger surplus. However, I do want to mention that in next month, we will be bringing a compensation package to you, and that is not included in this. And so that package totals $1.6 million, and so that would reduce our spending, our surplus next year. So when you look at our ending fund balance, the larger number is our total ending fund balance. The light blue bar and the darker blue bar is what is unassigned. So some of it would be our reserve that's set aside, the 3% reserve, and some of it is stores and other non-spendables. So you'll see that our ending fund balance is increasing. But again, when we take out that $1.6 million, should you approve the compensation package, then that would go down a little bit. Other funds. Fund 17 has currently $2.5 million in it. But in the second interim packet, there is a cash flow projection. And we're showing that in June, we will have a negative cash flow of about $1 million. When I add in the compensation package, should you approve it, that would be another $660,000 that we would be less on in June. So we would be negative $1.62 million. So we will have to use Fund 17 to cover that. One thing that could change is that we might get ESSER 2 money this year. If they were to give us that money, then that would be cash for us, and that would help us with cash flow. But I have not heard anything about when we're receiving that, so I can't put that into a projection. Also, just as a regular reporting, in Fund 20 are other post-employment benefits. We have $331,000 in the trust. We have not contributed to that in quite some time, just because we're unsure of the budget. And then we have 615,000 in Fund 20, and we can always use that money too if cash flow were to get worse.
Do you remember the last time we put a, do you remember the last time we put a deposit in the trust?
I'm guessing not last year, the year before, I believe. Oh, it's much warmer.
You're welcome.
Sorry, everybody else. Looking at the comparison of what we spent as of January 31st in 1920 versus 2021, we have a savings of about $2 million. And again, a lot of that is from spending COVID money for regular, semi-regular expenditures. Certificated salaries, we have two salaries that we moved over to the COVID funds, and they are to help with technology and professional development. We have classified salaries. The big portion of that is for transportation, food service, and noon duties. In an effort to not do layoffs, we were allowed to use COVID funds for positions where they're doing substantially different duties. And so transportation, for example, did not pick up students, but they did deliver lunches and they delivered homework packets and they did other tasks to help us function. And so I was able to move their salaries over to the COVID funds. When we look at COVID-related revenue, there are 5 pots of money that we've received so far, 3 from the federal government and 2 from the state. They total about $5 million. We also have about $5 million coming in called the ESSER II funds. We have not received that. I don't know when we're receiving that. I do know that the deadline to complete all of the paperwork to receive it is March 31st. So we haven't even hit the deadline for districts to apply for it. So I imagine it won't come until June, perhaps next year. When I look at COVID-related expenditures, this is what we have spent our money on so far. First, the certificated salaries, which I mentioned. Classified salaries also, which I mentioned. And the employee benefits that go along with that. The supplies, services, capital outlay is all included in the board packet. In the back, there's about 50 pages of purchase orders showing everything that we've spent our COVID funds on so far. So if anybody's interested in that, they can go to the board packet and check that out. Of that, over half has been spent in technology. We've spent $1.67 million in technology to make sure that we get devices to every student, to make sure that we provide internet connectivity to everybody, and to get the teachers set up so that they can teach distantly. We've spent about $400,000 in additional textbooks, physical and online books, so that every student has what they need to learn. We spent about $300,000 in custodial, just to make sure that we change the filters out, and the PPEs included in that, and the cleaning supplies, and so forth. We've spent about $400,000 from the maintenance department, and then the other site budgets, the school site budgets, is about $300,000. I included a slide of what we're allowed to spend the COVID funds on, because some people just have questions about that or think that we are spending it on salaries, like specific salaries that are not called like an incentive or something like that, and that's not included in what we can spend it on. So looking ahead, the COVID-related funding, we'll look for the ESSER II funds. I believe we're receiving other federal grants and other state grants as well. We'll watch enrollment and we'll watch cash flow. And back to the COVID-related expenditures and the ESSER II, I want to also point out that we are using these funds so far for summer school, for extending the school year, and for the extra hours that the teachers will be working, and also the extra hours that food staff will be working, because we have to extend the lunches to get everybody in socially distanced. and prepare all of the grab and goes. We are paying time carding and noon duty aides because they're helping with supervision before and after the school day, the AM and PM sessions. And we are time carding one other group. Oh, instructional aides, because they're going to help supervise as well. So yes, teachers are getting extra hours paid for, but so are many classified employees as well.
How about support staff such as the receptionist or like attendance people, like the two
Right.
people that did respond to your comment?
So if they work outside their 8-hour workday, then of course they should time card that.
So this is probably more of a question for Mr. Deason, but I know that usually during the summer months, the custodial staff does things like refinishing floors and deep cleaning, high cleaning, all those kinds of things. Do we have a plan for how we're going to do that with the schools being open? Are we hiring consultants? Are we working extra hours? What's the plan on that?
Over Easter break usually.
Well, typically, we run a summer school, but since we'll be running a summer school, and that may not be the name, because sometimes summer school has a negative connotation. We want to make it fun, enjoyable, learning experience. But we would have the month of July still to do some of those big areas. We also won't be using every single room, so we'll be able to rotate through. Also, our schools, because we have been empty from the normal traffic, we also have had a lot, our schools are pretty darn good. If you go around, our custodians have worked really, really well. In fact, McClellan High School, I just went over there the other day to see Mr. French and congratulate Dennis. That school, it looks fantastic. So I think there's been a lot of deep cleaning that we wouldn't have even been able to get done in summer.
Yeah, no, I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that obvious fact.
So do you have any questions about any of the spending?
Are we thinking or considering about extending the year at all?
So we are looking at a learning loss, so we would offer 4 weeks in June, where we're already currently surveying staff to see who's willing to do that, and then hopefully in the coming weeks we'll be surveying families to see who'd like to participate, both in person and distance, so we can try to recoup some of the time that we have. And then as we move into next year, we'll also look at creative opportunities to look at learning loss. My point on the summer, we want to try and make it, since some of our students haven't ever even been on our campuses, and so we want to make it not just about academic kind of grind, I guess you could say. We also want to make sure that kids know school's a great place to be. So a lot of like STEM stuff, science stuff, just trying to make it a little bit more, not just sit in your row and do your work. So that's all in the works, and you will continue to hear more with that.
Great. I have questions,
Sure.
because you know I always do when it
Yeah.
comes to the budget. So my first question is, do we have a rough idea of how much extra funding we're going to be using for certificated and classified hours for the learning loss and for the summer school hours? Do we have just a ballpark number?
Right now, we're surveying staff to see, so it's contingent a little bit on that, but we would be able to address that better. Probably, I don't want to even guess, Ms. Kelly, because I'm afraid I'd be wrong, but with the second pot of ESSER money, that's what we're planning to utilize for that.
Yeah.
And so I think to your point, I think Dr. Lee's pointed out too, is we also have a plan for our HVAC systems. And once we identify that learning loss plan, we'll also carve out and come back to you with a plan to start looking at our most aged HVAC units. And I know Craig has
I
that.
wasn't even thinking that, Scott.
Oh,
I'm
well.
so glad you're addressing that. No,
But I do, that is definitely something that we'll be looking, and is allowable with these funds. So we'll look at portioning out, because staffing is going to be the biggest cost for our summertime program.
Yeah.
We also want to make sure we have it
That
for
was good.
during the year coming up, that if we're going to offer, there's some after-school stuff that we want to offer, additional tutoring, different things that we want available to the students and families that want to take advantage of that, in addition to any other supports for our families.
So when would we be able to get a report of projected costs for all of the learning loss and summer school programs?
I would say, Mr. Jordan, we're working on surveying staff, so possibly by April, we can come back with a good guesstimate.
Okay, so when we get to new agenda
Yes.
items, we'll maybe add that to the, does anyone else have questions for Mrs. Coronado? No, I'm the only one.
That's
Okay.
I want to make a comment to Ms. Coronado. I just want to thank you, Ms. Coronado, for the transparency. Anyone who is interested or has questions about expenditures that our board has made, it's all right there. You even have detailed line items, so you can look at it to your heart's content, and please have confidence in the way that the funds have been spent.
Thank you, I appreciate that, Dr. Lee.
And Dr. Lee, can I add on to that too, is even if you don't want to interpret the information, because it is hard, give us a call. I guarantee you Mrs. Coronado or anyone in the business department would be happy to walk line by line of any of that stuff. So I want to go even beyond that and say, give us a ring, shoot us an email. We're happy to help anyway, because we don't want it to be a hidden thing. We're not hiding anything. So thank you.
Okay, so looking at page 4 on the executive briefing, where it talks about the deferrals, did you, and I apologize if I missed you talking about this, but I really want to kind of point out that deferrals are back in full swing, which is lovely, not lovely. And it's interesting because the deferrals from February don't get paid back until November. The deferrals from March get paid back in October. April get paid back in September. So the sooner we get the deferral, the longer they get to keep our money. And we don't get to gain interest on that money. Nor
Sometimes we don't get the deferral.
And sometimes they're only paying us 50 or 40% of that. That's not the case yet, knock on wood. But what happens with these deferrals, if we were not in a cash positive situation, we would have to get what's called a TRAN, which is a bank loan. And guess who pays the interest on that? So not only do we not get our money, and they get to draw interest on our money from the state for however many months, but then we have to pay interest to the bank to cover our cash deficiencies because they have our money. They're really detrimental to us.
Right.
I applaud Governor Brown for eliminating all of those during his tenure, and I just can only hope that we see the backside of these when we see the backside of this pandemic. So.
And luckily, they were in place to go on in future years, and at least that was removed. So we only have this one batch of deferrals. And I also want to thank everybody at the district for allowing us to have a reserve that will get us through this time period. Because when I went to a meeting initially before the COLA money came and everything, we were the only district that was able to not take out a TRAN.
And you know, I've often been on the fence with regards to reserves. I kind of feel like the people today are paying taxes to educate their children today, and that money is intended for that purpose. But then, of course, you know, on the flip side is that we need to stay solvent. So there's a really fine balancing act between using the money for the people who've paid the money right now and not funding 20 years down the road when people decide they don't want to pay taxes or whatever, they don't want to fund bonds, whatever the reason. We don't want to be funding the future, but at the same time, you know, having to keep that balance. And so we do a really great job of that, yes.
With that first big crunch, we had 6% because it was always our policy to put more in than what we mandated.
Yeah.
So when we lost McClellan Air Force Base, we had 6% in there, and that's what saved us.
I know, I get that, I get that, I do understand it. I can see both sides, and I think that we definitely err on the side of caution, which is good. Are we anticipating that those are actually going to be paid back to us when they say they're going to be paid back to us?
Well, I am of the hope that yes, they will be paid back to us.
Wonderful. Our reserve. So speaking of our reserve, what exactly is our reserve right now percentage-wise? I know it says 17%, but what about the unallocated?
That is our total unallocated between Fund 1 and Fund 17.
That includes all unallocated, okay. And then I think that was all of my questions. I have lots of highlighting and notes, but no questions, so.
Okay.
Super. Any other questions? I think we got them.
Thank you.
Do we have
You always
a
do a
motion?
great job, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. As always, fabulous job. Thank you, Lisa. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve business item A by Mrs. Pope.
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Anderson. Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
Mrs. Polk, Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Business item A has been passed unanimously. Okay, advanced planning. We're almost at the finish line, people. So advanced planning, future meeting dates, board workshop on Wednesday, April 7th. Just so you know, that workshop will be live streamed, just like any of our board meetings. It might be boring, but you are more than welcome to stay and listen, come and listen to it. That might be interesting, you never know. But that workshop will be on Brown Act, which is the laws that we have to follow as far as communications, public communications, and publicly agendizing items. So it should be interesting, if not riveting.
Is
And
the
then-
board all going to be live streamed, or are we going to be present?
Oh, I'm going to be present.
I plan on it.
I'll reach out to see who we'll talk
Okay.
individually.
Yeah, I mean, it can be Zoomed and live streamed, but we're definitely, I think we've made the decision we're going to continue to live stream all of our board meetings, correct?
As long as we can, yeah.
To encourage
Yeah, yeah.
participation from the community.
Yep.
I think it really helps. Okay, and then item 2 is the regular meeting, Wednesday, April 21st, here in this room, and by Zoom and by live stream. And then suggested agenda items.
The only thing I was gonna add is the CSBA training. I kind of need to nail the 5 of you down. So there's a couple of questions. One is the training is 6 hours. So the first question, consensus-wise, is do you want 2 3-hour sessions or 1 6-hour session? If we determine that, then I move to my next question is, how do you guys want to proceed with me scheduling this? I'm thinking end of April, we have, April 7th already scheduled out. We have a regular meeting. What works for the group as far as meetings? If we do a 6-hour, for those that are present, we'll bring lunch in. We'll have frequent breaks. I might suggest we use room 5, which might also mean if we use room 5, it wouldn't be live streamed because I don't know if we can live stream in room 5, but it also is more comfortable. The Brown Act one, absolutely, we can do right here. That's not a problem. So I just need some direction from you guys so I can get back with CSBA to say, let's schedule. I don't need a date per se, but if I can get kind of a ballpark idea, then I can happily go back to them and say, here's what we have to offer. Then I can give you guys.
I'd love to see us together doing it, because word bonding is what it amounts to, and it goes so far when things get tough and you've had a chance to know, get to know each other a little bit, and know what each other's about, and
Right.
So in
be
room
able to
5,
stand.
there would be plenty of room to socially distance.
We could space out, and if CSBA may be virtual themselves, their directive right now is all virtual. So if, for example, we had our trainer coming in virtually, we could do a Zoom thing, have 2 people on Zoom if that was necessary, 3 people. And then in room 5, we have a big projector that we could put it up so it'd be as if they're there, and then you would each have your own table. And so realistically, that's kind of a secondary question to it. Do you want to do 2 evenings, basically, or do you want to do 1 day? What would work best?
So I'm kind of of the feeling that it should be a one-time thing. And whether we do it on a Saturday or maybe start it at 2 in the afternoon and go 2 to 9 with an hour break, or 2
So
to 8:30.
Perfect. So I'm
something like that.
I'm seeing 4 nods, Dr. Lee. I'm seeing you nod a little bit, but I'm going to lean to Steve.
I can probably be somewhat flexible.
Okay. And so do you want to do, if we do, so 6-hour, I'm going to circle that. I saw a bunch of nods on that. They can train Monday through Saturday, no Sundays. So
I
what
want it
day?
Sunday.
Can't help me on that one. That's only an lecture. So would you like to do, we can do a regular day if I give you advance notice that you could arrange with your work, or?
So our regular alternative meeting date is May 5th, correct?
Correct.
Which is a Wednesday,
So we could do a Wednesday, start at like a 9 a.m., go through, have some lunch, and then finish.
Or we could do that Friday.
Dr. Lee, I'm trying, you're a weird angle for me, so I'm trying to see, would something like that work?
Yeah, just for me and how my schedule works, a Saturday for the 6 hours would work a lot better than a weekday.
Okay,
So that would be the 8th of May or the 1st of May.
correct.
Saturday's fine with me.
The 8th.
Either way.
I can't do the 8th.
Could you do May 1st?
Dr. Lee, I heard you say something about the 8th. Did you say the 8th would work better? What about the 1st?
Yeah, the 8th would work, or the 24th of April, also works. I'm looking at another,
Yeah, no
Not
worries.
May,
No
not May
worries.
1st.
no, May 1st is out for me, unfortunately.
I mean, the 24th is pretty soon. I think I might be out of town.
Did you
What's
say
the
the
next
8th?
day in May?
Would be the 15th, right?
Sorry, I guess I should have my calendar
May
up.
15th. I guess I can get my calendar.
Would the 15th, Lee? That good? Okay. I hope that's not my wife's birthday, because you'll all be in trouble. It's not. It's not. I know it's not.
Tell Jenny our birthday present is that she can
It's
participate in the training as well.
Right in the middle, so I have a son and a wife, that 15th is dead center in the middle.
You tell her I said that she gets to
There you
participate
go.
in the training
Steve
too.
with the
That's our
15th.
present to her.
I know that I've got some plans for some weekend today,
Okay.
and I'm not sure which weekend. I think the 15th is clear.
Okay, so why don't I shoot for May 15th? We do like a 9 o'clock start, 9 a.m. start? Does that work for everyone with? Okay. No, you guys are way easier than I thought you'd be. I was worried this was gonna take longer than the whole meeting with everyone's calendar. So May 15th, 9 a.m. I will reach out to CSBA tomorrow, see if that date will work for them, and then hopefully by Friday I can let you all know just to confirm it in your calendar. And then Steve, if you want to double check, just let me know, or if it,
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Do we want to come up with an alternative date in case that doesn't work for Mr. Bruno?
I just go for the next Saturday, the 15th or the 22nd, just so I can give them 2 dates.
Well, we got the 15th, that's what you're working on, right?
That's
Yes.
priority number one.
Did someone say they couldn't do the 8th, or was that, did I?
Yeah, someone,
Yes.
someone did, I don't know
Okay.
who, but someone did.
Was it me?
Can't do the 22nd.
So why don't I shoot for the 15th, and then, because she said that if we're, the later, the more likely we're going to get a date, the earlier it might be more questionable. So
Why
I'll,
don't we do May 15th, and then if that doesn't work, look at April 24th,
okay,
sooner.
does that work?
Sooner rather than later.
That works for Lee, Nancy, does that work for you?
Which,
The 15th
April
first, if not the 24th of April.
absolutely.
That should work.
Okay.
Ms. Pope?
I thought that worked for Mrs. Pope.
No, May 8th doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident the 15th of May will work, but just, it's nice to have a backup if that's the case. Okay, good. Good. That was easy.
All
And then
right.
the only other item I'm suggested, if we can pull together kind of a summary, I've heard you ask, Ms. Kelly, a summary of what we see costs for summer.
Yep.
We'll bring that back so we can inform you. It just really depends on getting the numbers and,
Of who's going to work
Yep.
and how many classes and such.
correct. Correct.
And then also, we were going to possibly take volunteers for the social emotional learning. Do we want to do that tonight? Is that part of advanced planning?
We could, if there's 2 people, we can make sure we include on it, and I would love the idea that if 2 of you or 1 of you, whatever, we just can't have more than 2, would be a part of it, then what I can do is we'll get the date to the next meeting and start looking, and then that group could then bring information back to the whole group to start setting the charge of where we want to go as a district. And I think that,
Who might be interested in participating?
I would be interested.
What?
Social emotional learning committee.
and really, we're looking at some of the disproportionality, we're looking at trying to set a drive for where we want to go.
For equity and
Yep.
disproportionate outcomes.
And really, I see getting
Okay.
in, and I, Dr. Lee shared a lot of data too. We'll start diving into that data. I think it's important, so then we can start identifying where do we want to start.
Okay, well, I'd be interested, Mrs. Pope is interested. I was trying to leave it open for anyone else that might
Is that,
be interested.
and then what we can do too is
Okay.
usually with subcommittees, you can have rotations. So if you guys want to stick with it for a few months, then we could certainly opt into,
Well,
if
okay.
Steve wanted to opt in, rotate through. I think that's more than appropriate.
And then those meetings, when do they normally meet?
We're gonna have to look at the calendar. I know it's usually afternoons. Right now it's been a little bit less frequent just because of everyone's schedule, but
There's no particular day of the week, though?
not right this moment, no.
Okay, so I'll have to look at those on an individual basis.
Kelly, if you can't attend, let me know so I know.
Okay, sounds good. If I can't attend, Mrs. Anderson has volunteered to.
With the idea that with that group, the charge is going to be to identify key areas to focus on that the board as a whole would then come back and say, hey, this is the priority that we want to work on. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's 3 items. Was there anything else that we had for advanced planning?
I think that was it, so.
I think I heard earlier someone, I don't remember who, asked that we wanted to know how is a typical day looking for
Oh, yes.
our elementary school students, so if we could address that on the 21st.
We already did, so do you want to do it again, or should we just bring up the documentation since we did it in?
We can do it either way.
Detail?
Mr. Jordan and I would be happy to share a day of elementary,
Or
or,
just maybe resubmit the documentation that was presented last month, so we don't have to do it again, since it's right there.
whatever you guys wish. And I know, I have a note, Nancy, that you had asked for specifics, so I was gonna
Oh.
call you and set up a time, but I'm happy for the, I mean,
Well, we can do it together, maybe.
I mean, I wouldn't mind having it in the packet and just, again,
Okay.
just repeating it and reviewing it,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd like to hear about what is actually happening and not what was planned, because as we know, in education, things are planned and then they're executed, and sometimes there's a wide difference between the two. So that's my interest.
okay.
By that time, we would have had almost a month back, and that's
Perfect.
what I'm curious to know.
Okay, so we'll provide the
That's a great
overview of the elementary schedule and then kind of an update status of how things are going.
Whether it's
Is
really
that for the
happening
next
that way.
meeting?
Yes.
The agenda
So
for
the
the next?
budget versus actuals.
Yes, yes.
That's on
Next
the
meeting.
agenda for the next meeting?
Next meeting, yes.
That's what I was gonna add. So-
Yeah. Okay,
Good.
any other agenda items? And if not, the board will entertain a motion at this time.
A motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn, yay, and we have a second.
I'll second it.
And we'll consent, I think we can consent on this one.
Now let's do roll call.
Roll call, okay. Dr. Lee, do you want to
Yeah,
adjourn? We're
Real
voting,
quick, are we adjourning to closed session, or are we just adjourning?
we're just adjourning unless there's something that we need to return to closed session for.
Good, I just wanted to clarify, make
Oh,
sure.
no,
Yeah.
we're just adjourning. We're out of here.
Awesome.
We're done.
I vote aye.
And Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
Mrs. Pope,
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
And the chair most definitely votes aye. Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you.